Well, hello, I am Amparo Espinosa. I am the president, and together with Asunción, we founded our association. Well, I'm going to talk to you about what we've been doing in our foundation. It's really a very, very new foundation, so we just have been working for 2 or 3 years. And well, I'm going to talk very quickly about the subjects because I have 5 minutes now. I want to tell you about our presence in Mexico City, what we've been doing, our legal agenda, medical agenda. This is because of Rob, that he suggested, I think very wisely to us, that we start with the doctors, so we follow his idea. Then we have some obstacles, and then what is in the future. I'm going to show you some pictures because I think it's best way. You cannot see this one, but our most important presence, I think it has been with our a survey we took about 3 years ago, and it's the only survey that we have in Mexico about the right to die, and everybody has to have that as a reference. So it's been very good for our association because we put this subject, on the table, as we say in Spanish. Many academics, like Asunción, for instance, have been working on the thing many, many years ago, but it was not until our organization was born that the subject was open publicly. And well, this is the kind of thing we've been having in different forums, a very good presence. And now that our next minister, she was an ex-judge, next minister of the Interior, she knew of our survey before she went to office. So I believe that the numbers she's been given and her interests, of course she had that on her own, but because she saw our poll that, as somebody was saying, the majority of Mexican people, around 70%, are in favor of both euthanasia and assisted suicide. That is a lot. And surprisingly, about 70% of the Catholics are also for the right to die via euthanasia or assisted suicide. I think that has been very important. Also, another important thing that we found is that advanced will or living will, only 12% people knew about that, and only 4% of the people have had their living will done. And I think that helped our next minister to mention that she's going to go for the promotion of living will and also a national register of living wills. We have done interviews, movie clubs, that we have done that, a lot of those. We've been very, very present in the media, Asunción, a lot, of course, and also me and also other colleagues. And we have had a lot of participation. We've been talking to people on the streets, asking them what they believe. And that is something about what Deborah, is it your name? She mentioned about the cases. We made several, I don't know if you call these contests, asking people to write their stories, their own cases, and we have had a lot of them. I've been working with women cases since about 30 years ago, but now we have redirected this to right to die, and you will be surprised how many people have been sending us their stories, even from Argentina. I think they know about that, so we would like to publish some of them. Well, the web page, of course, this is our next Minister of the Interior, the one that I was telling you about, that she has some proposals. Oh, I wanted to tell you also that it was our organization that proposed the initiative to introduce into our constitution both words, dying with dignity. This was a phrase that we introduced, and also autonomy of the patients. They were not there. We proposed them, and they finally passed. And what we are trying to do now is to raise this to the, not to just the local level as it is now in the Mexico City Constitution, but we want that in the national constitution. So we have seen this initiative also, so I hope it will pass because it will set the foundations for whatever comes next. And I think we've been very lucky with that because we got that pass, and I suppose and I hope, and I think we have a good chance to pass this to the next level in the federal level. Well, these are more toxic, and the hospitals. You see, Rob, we take your advice. We've been really talking to the doctors, and it's been, we have found many, many things. When I ask them, what is your main enemy now that there are this change of paradigms that you have to take into account the patients and talk about well, this is very basic, but we are at that level now. And they said that the main enemy is internet, because the patients arrive and they know more than they do. So whatever it is they say, no, this is not true, because I read this in the internet. So they are having a lot of trouble with the internet. And also they say they have trouble now with lawyers. I remember now one case of one doctor that he used to live in a very small town, and he said that he helped people die very easily because he had no many resources to keep their suffering down, so he did it for 30 years. But now, with all this movement, he can't, because now there are many lawyers on the chase of these people so that they can take them to court. So it has backfired in some incredible ways. And the last time I went to a hospital about last week, and after my talk, well, they told them I was going to the doctors that I was going to talk about dignified death, die with dignity. But I talked about euthanasia and also talked about assisted suicide, and they were very angry. They were really very, very aggressive when I ended my talk, and he said, well, you should interview doctors that kill people. So they were really, really very, very mean to me, no? But sometimes they've been very nice, but in this particular case, it was the Spanish hospital in Mexico. I think they are more conservative, so it was not very nice, no? Well, focus group with doctors. Here I have a photograph in the University of Iberoamericana. We invited Peter Singer. I like him as a philosopher. I think he's very good. He was there, and also not a very good, he didn't have a very good reception, but I love his talk. I think one obstacle, and it surprises many people, is death. In Mexico, many people think that because we have this beautiful Day of the Dead, on exactly the same day as the right to die is the November the 2nd, it's exactly the same day, coincidentally. They think that we talk a lot about death, but what we found in the survey is just we don't talk about death. We ask people how often they talk about death, and it's about once a year. They don't even talk with the doctors or with the priests or with nobody. So with Mexicans, we don't talk about death. You know, there was this woman, a psychologist, that she was saying that after the earthquake, she talked to children, and children were very surprised because they couldn't understand why their parents were not coming back. So there were children about I think it was, for me, very surprising, 12, 13 years of age. They had never heard about that. I mean, like Buddha, no? They kept them in their small palaces, not letting them out, so they didn't know about that, the children. Many of the children had never heard about that. So I think, well, that's important. That's why we don't make wills, not only living wills, but only, how do you call that, testaments or whatever it is. We don't do those also because we have our carnival party, the Dead of the Dead, but our approach to death is not as people think. Because somebody, I think, from Holland was telling me, oh, how lucky you are that you talk to death and you live death. Yeah, we talk, but we live this party, we don't talk about death. So I think that is one obstacle necessary to change the way we approach death, beginning to talking about death with our kids. I was reading this quote about Nelson Mandela, and he said that once it happens that a generation It's called to, let me see if I have it here because I thought it was very beautiful. There was sometimes asked of a generation to be great. He was talking about his people in his time, and that his generation had this call to be great, and that they should really take their greatness out and live up to that destiny. And I think in Mexico, well, we have been having very difficult times. They are not very easy times. But when I think, what can I do? Where does my greatness can lie? And I think it's just in this, in passing laws, in having our next generations be able to die without suffering. I think that is in my hands. And I also think about, I have children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And I was talking to, I think, John the other day, and I was saying, I wish I could give them immortality, because I love them dearly. I really love them. I cannot do that. But what I can do is the next best thing, and to leave them a country where they can die without suffering. I think it's the next best thing. So my motivation for working in this cause, I always work with women, but then I move to this work, is because of them. I really would like to leave them a country where they can die with dignity, without suffering. I wish they were immortals, but I cannot give them that. But this is the very next thing. Thank you very much.